Welcome to Defeat is Optional.
Here comes Ronnie Baker! 9.77. Baker's running away with this one. Surely they can't get back to him.
In your journey to greatness, defeat is never the final answer. It's a choice. So let's get to work.
6 a.m. lifts, 8 a.m. class, practice until 5 p.m., group project due at midnight. Yeah, college athletics is no joke, but I learned how to make it work without quitting, without burnout, or losing myself in the process. I'm Ronnie Baker, your favorite Olympic sprinter, but before all that, I was a college athlete trying to figure it all out. Today, we're going to be answering the question submitted by Tiwa_Sams that asked this: how do you survive balancing college and athletics? I can hear the pain in your voice. Okay. And if you ever wanted to get in on the action and have a question answered on the Defeat is Optional podcast, you got to go over to the Defeat is Optional podcast page and be on the lookout for the polls I do. And maybe your question will get selected and I'll do a devotional specifically for you. Secondly, is the Defeat is Optional merch has officially launched with our very own wristband. It has the slogan Defeat is Optional along with 2 Corinthians 4:8-10 that reminds us when we are crushed, we are not destroyed, and defeat is a choice because of Christ's sacrifice that he already made for us. So make sure you go over to the Defeat is Optional podcast page on Instagram, which will be linked in the show notes, and get your wristband before they're all gone. There's a very limited supply. All right, back to our devotional. No one really prepares you for the chaos that comes with being a student athlete. So if you're feeling stretched thin, if you feel overwhelmed, or like you're dropping the ball somewhere, yeah, I'd say that's pretty normal. But in all honesty, it's probably because you aren't managing your time well. So this is what helped me not just survive my 4 years of college, but thrive in my 4 years of college. Let's get into these 6 tips. Tip number 1 is accept the chaos. First thing I had to learn when I got to TCU is that this life is not going to be easy, but it can be managed. College and athletics together are very hard. If you're waiting for it to be chill and balanced and flowy, I'm going to tell you right now that you're going to be disappointed. So the goal isn't to avoid the pressure. The goal is to develop a system that helps you carry that pressure better and handle it better, because pressure creates diamonds. That's what you are. That's what we want to be. Step 1 is really just to accept the chaos, accept that there's going to be pressure, accept that it's going to be hard. That's going to honestly make it a lot easier for you. You say, how can accepting that it's going to be harder and accepting that there's going to be chaos make it easier for you? I'm glad you asked. A lot of times in life, we have expectations on how things are supposed to be. And typically those expectations look a lot more flowery than our actual expectations. We have these flowery expectations because of social media or because we've heard someone else's experience. So we think it's going to be great. So then you might go in, right, to being a student athlete thinking that it's going to be a little bit easier than it actually is. So now there's a gap between what you feel like being a student athlete should be and what you're actually experiencing. And what that does is that gap creates anxiety, it creates overwhelm, and it creates stress. And all those things are going to hinder your performance in sports, and they're going to hinder your performance in the classroom. So the best thing you can do is accept that it's going to be chaotic, because what that does is it shrinks the gap that you have of your expectations and what it actually is. And what that does is it gives you more peace amidst the juggling act, which you're about to start and you're about to commit, because you are a clown. I'm just kidding. So that's the first tip, accept the chaos. Tip number 2 is create a weekly game plan. When I was at TCU, there was a rule that every freshman coming in had to do 10 hours of study hall a week. We had a study hall that was dedicated to athletes, so we had a specific place that we could study. When we went in there, we had to log in. So we had to literally type in the computer our ID, and it would basically log hours for us. And most schools have a dedicated space like that. So you may feel like that's a burden to get 10 hours of study hall a week or whatever it is for you, but it was the most useful and helpful thing for me when I was a student. And typically, whenever you got better grades, you didn't have to go, but I would go every week anyway. And honestly, you should too. You got to use the resources that the university is giving you. So every Sunday, I would go into study hall and I would log up to 6 hours of my 10 for the week. So each Sunday I was in there, I'd look at my week like a coach looks at a playbook. So here's what you can do when you're in study hall is organize your week. What I did was I got binders for every class or subject I was taking that semester. And that way everything was organized in one single place for every single class. So this is time where you can really get organized. Tip 2, I would look at the assignments that are due each week in every single class. So I go through every single class to look at my syllabus, figure out what assignments are going to be due that week. Whether it was reading, whether it was a paper, whether it was a group project, whatever it was, I made sure I wrote that down. And then step 3 is you can decide which assignments will take the most time. And while you're in study hall, I would start on the hardest ones first. Start on the tasks that are going to take the most time. Because if you can knock those out earlier in the week, then you're freed up during the week to focus your mind on training and less on homework. Just remember this, that time management isn't about being perfect. You're not going to be perfect amidst this chaos. It's about being intentional. That's tip number 2. Use the resources, use study hall. Tip number 3 is lock in your top 3 priorities. Every week I'd ask myself, what are the 3 things that must get done no matter what? Like, what do I have to get done this week? It could be passing a class. It could be hitting a certain training goal. It could be getting 8 hours of sleep because you've got a big competition this week. What are your top 3 priorities? Everything else after your top 3 priorities is a bonus. Do 3 things with excellence. Don't try to do 10 things, okay? Tip number 4, learn to say no without guilt. You can't be at every event. You can't be at every function. You won't always be the best friend, teammate, or student all at once. Saying no now is saying yes to what you actually want later. Here is the most important question that I learned to ask myself. Is this helping or hurting the version of me I'm trying to become? So whatever it is that you're about to decide on, is that hurting or helping the version of me that I'm trying to become? My coach in college, who's still my professional coach now, he always says this, and I'm pretty sure he still says this to his students now. He says, in college, you have a triangle. And on each corner, there's one aspect of your life in college, right? You've got social life, you got track life, and you've got academics. He said, you only get to choose 2. And quite frankly, he's right. You only get to choose 2. Every athlete I've seen is never good at doing all 3 of these. So let me fill you in on a secret. Academics has to be one of the ones that you choose, because if you fail to do well in your academics, guess what? You're going to be ineligible, and then you won't be able to compete. So now you must decide, do I want to be really good at video games and play like a streamer and stay up all night and not get rest and not recover? Or do I want to go to bed at a decent time and practice well tomorrow? It's your choice. So typically you really have 2 choices. Do you want to have a great social life, or do you want to be a really good athlete? You got to choose one. Okay. You got to choose one. And everybody's capacity is different. Some people might be able to do more social things and still do well on the track, but everyone's capacity is different. You've got to know what your capacity is. Capacity is everything. So choose which one. You got social life, you got academics, you got track. Choose 2. And you have to choose academics first. So you only get one more. Be cognizant of that. You get to pick one. And tip number 5 is build a small circle you can trust. You don't need 20 friends. You need 2 or 3 solid ones. And they need to know your schedule. They need to respect your goals. So they need to know your goals, what it is that you're trying to accomplish here while you're at school. And they need to be able to keep you grounded when you want to quit, because as a collegiate athlete, things do get hard, right? I would suggest making it your roommates or your teammates, people that are in the fight with you that have some of the same goals, because that way you guys are always going to be on the same page. And lastly, tip number 6 is have fun. Sometimes what you need when you're stressed out is a little fun. Don't be so wound up. Don't be so overwhelmed, because what it does is that bleeds into the classroom. It bleeds into your test taking. It bleeds into your practices. And then eventually it's going to bleed into your games or your meets. Okay, so have fun, relax, do something different. Go get dinner with a friend. Attend a game on campus you normally don't go to. Go to a social event on campus that they throw. Find ways to keep life fun, because that is the key to staying loose and being yourself when it comes to competition. That's what I learned when I was in college. I found out when I was most overwhelmed, I didn't perform well. When I just loosened up, I had some fun, I didn't care as much. Guess what? I performed better. I also found a lot of peace in prayer. When life got too chaotic for me to handle, at times this is the one place that I could always go to find peace. Is prayer, man. Be still, be quiet, pray. That's an extra bonus for tip number 6. So here's the final takeaway, is that balancing college and sports isn't about doing everything right. It's about doing the right things consistently, okay? You got to accept the chaos up front. As a college athlete, you're going to learn a lot of new skills, and managing stress is one of them, and you'll be better for it. Number 2, again, remember, plan your week. Use the resources the school gives you. Use your tutors, use your study hall time. Get organized and front load your week to make everything less stressful and easier for you. If you front load your week, you could take your mind off homework. you can focus more on your sport, and you can have more time to do a little bit of social stuff. Okay. Prioritize the essentials. Remember, you're either going to be the social king and the sports crash out or vice versa. Say no with confidence. Keep people around you that will keep you accountable to your goals. And lastly, don't forget to enjoy the process. These years are going to go fast. Trust me, you're literally going to blink and it'll be over. And I know you've heard that before. So take that time, enjoy it, and have fun. If this encouraged you today, share it with another athlete who needs to hear this. And if you're still trying to figure out how to balance school and sports, I'm going to let you know right now that you are not alone. Keep showing up, keep trusting God, and remember, defeat is optional when your hope is in Christ. I'm Ronnie Baker, and I'll see you in the next one.